Welcome to the first in our Modernization Mondays series. My name is Ariana Valentini. I'm a director of product marketing here at Precisely. I'm joined with my colleague Ashwin Ramachandran, who's the SVP of product management for our integration portfolio. And today we are going to be speaking to you about legacy system modernization. Just a reminder that this is the first in a series of 4 Modernization Mondays. Please tune back in for our topics around discussion around cloud modernization, process automation, and finally, architecture modernization. So without further ado, I am going to stop sharing my screen and we are just going to start talking. Ashwin, thanks for joining me here today. As we kick this discussion off, I was recently in a analyst conversation, and this analyst made this analogy that legacy system modernization is kind of like going into your basement and you keep finding more things you didn't know you had or that you absolutely needed. And so this topic just feels so big. And so I guess my first question to you is, when you're thinking about modernization of your legacy systems, there's some big risks of turning things off. Is there any organizational risk of like not moving forward? And like, how do they get over that fear of the basement, like going in the basement and just pulling things out?
Yeah. I mean, this brings up the phrase, skeletons in the closet, right? You
Yes.
understand where they exist. I think one of the key challenges as it relates to legacy system modernization is there's oftentimes a conflation that modernization equals migration. And that conflation introduces a lot of perceived risk into the minds of decision makers. A lot of times people say legacy systems are called legacy because they just work and we don't have to think about them. And the squeaky wheel doesn't get any, like a squeaky wheel is the one that gets the grease. And these aren't
Right.
particularly squeaky because they do a really good job at what they're intended and were built for. I think the biggest risk that comes from not taking a modernization mindset is the risk of doing the same thing, expecting better results in the future. Elite athletes oftentimes will say, if you're not improving, if you're not actively improving, you're getting worse. And I think that mindset is particularly true when it comes to an organization's business. How are you looking at your IT investments? How are you continuously improving them, whether that be through modernizing applications, migrating them, maybe doing nothing to them, but leveraging the data that they generate and that they govern in a more future-proof, agile way to allow you to not just meet the needs of whatever that system and whatever that data has served up historically, but to deal with the things that you see coming down the pipe.
That I think that's great advice. It's like you're exactly right. Like you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting this better results. I mean, you're doing the status quo, you're preserving the status quo. When you're working with organizations that are talking about addressing this challenge and really looking at doing things differently, is there any advice that you give to folks to say, like, how do you identify which systems maybe to retire or to take on with that, like modernization journey or migration journey? Like, how do you make those decisions, or how do you see your folks that you work with making those decisions?
I think it starts at the top level goal. Ultimately, every enterprise has 3 goals that drive decision making. It's either grow revenue, minimize my cost, or manage risk. And so it comes down to that. And I'm going to act like the product guy here. I'm going to say, what is your top level goal?
Yeah.
And that informs it. If you're looking to potentially grow net new revenue, well, you may look at a strategy that tells or that asks you to figure out how do you take the data you have, take the applications you have, not necessarily touch them or change them, but leverage that data more intelligently than you have been before. If you're looking to potentially reduce risk, you may look at something like an impending workforce retirement because the folks who have been managing your mainframe applications are entering retirement age, and you may not have the skills to maintain that going forward. You're not able to find them in the market. And so then your imperative becomes, how do we actually leverage migration? So I think it just starts from the top level goals. Use those as the guiding light to inform your decision calculus.
Yeah, I mean that even is true like sounding like the product marketer for a second, like we always talk about like what's the end value, what's the end
Mhm.
result that you want someone to have, and that's so true with modernization. Like to say you're just going to bring this thing to the cloud, like a copy paste situation does not work because that does implies that you don't have a plan for
Sure,
anything else. And
sure.
so um, you in turn may actually be driving up costs that way. I don't know if you've seen people do that where they're just trying to like they don't really have a goal, they just kind of shove stuff into the cloud, and now their cloud bill is exponentially higher than it would have been if they were just doing this carefully and mindfully.
Oh, 100%. There's the goal of getting cloud native is to ultimately reduce costs and increase your agility. But if you don't really have an understanding of the dynamics of your business, the dynamics and the cost profile of what rehosting or re-architecting or migrating something to a more cloud native architecture, you could be surprised by the bill. And that really comes back to what are the outcomes you're trying to drive and what are the dynamics of the applications you're looking to modernize, build that new, etc. Is it something that runs pretty consistently, that has very high volume and has a lot of throughput requirements? Maybe you're better served by maintaining that within your infrastructure because it's more predictable. Is it something that's really bursty and has big periods of high usage and then long periods of low usage? That may be better suited to a cloud native model where you have a more variable cost profile, right? So it
Yeah.
does come down to those kinds of really just understanding your business. Every technological decision should be informed by an understanding of your business and the future requirements. It's fun to do science projects, but science projects don't really have any tie back to business value, right? And IT leaders are looking at how do you deliver better business value, not just make the change for the sake of making a change.
Exactly. And, science projects, while cool in an incubation period, can be very disruptive as well. Like people's businesses, we've seen that publicly. Vendors that have been trying to do some sort of modernization projects, maybe it was done in a vacuum, flip a switch, and wow, not thinking about the rest of the org. And now systems are down. The one I can think of is, I think it was, I can't remember which airline it was a couple of years ago. They were trying to like migrate to the cloud, and then
Yes,
like everything was grounded, and it was just
yes.
literally like a mainframe error or something. We don't want anyone tuning into this webinar to ground any flights
Yeah,
or mass transit. So
yeah. You can't have that, you know?
no, no. Do you have any like practical tips for people when it comes to modernization of like maybe just reducing those costs or meeting those goals, but maybe not disrupting day-to-day operations? Is there something you see people frequently do that limits that disruption?
The approach we take it precisely is we try to help customers figure out where can you drive net new value as a starting point. Why? Because number one, a modernization program is not a project. It is a large organizationally challenging program. And so the approach we try to take here is how can we help you get more competitive strategic advantage out of this data you may have been ignoring to drive a better outcome and use that success to start to drive more of a flywheel effect to enact larger change organizationally. Once people see success and quick success, the perceived risk that we talked about up front immediately starts to diminish. Oh, okay. We're not completely uprooting everything that we do that keeps the lights running, that pays our workers. We're not uprooting that just for the sake of uprooting it. We're using a success-driven approach where we can incorporate the feedbacks, the feedback, the challenges, the learnings of this early project that's tied to immediate business value. It's not something to do just for the sake of doing, but we can feed that back into the learnings back into a bigger plan going forward. So that's really one of the key things that we say, or we try to guide customers towards. And by taking an approach in that way, you are certainly much better suited to not running bills up and
Mhm.
actually containing your costs. Scope management, again, I'll go back to the product management mindset. Scope management is critical. Figuring out, hey, what's just enough scope that we can go and show an impact and a return to people. And then you earn the right to go and play a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I think a lot, like to what we were talking about before, like that basement analogy of like you walk down the stairs and you're like, oh my God, what is this? And then,
Yeah,
I've been in situations where like maybe I have a pile of books or something and I want to pull something out and
yeah,
it's at the bottom and everything crashes. And
yeah,
that's so, and you're
yeah.
right. It's like you got to start with a little piece of the
Hmm.
corner
Yeah,
of the basement to clean out, to organize before you look at the thing as a whole. I mean, it just, if
yeah,
you do that, and I think also your point of, it's this isn't like a one-time thing. You don't like modernize stuff. There's always new technology, right? So it's like you're not doing this once
right.
and then you're saying, good, it's done. I mean, if we even think about people's CRMs, even like, the CRM somebody started with is probably a legacy tech at this point. I mean, they're
Right.
20 plus years old. So it's not just mainframes, it's SAP, it's
Hmm.
Oracle, it's Salesforce, all of these things that kind of have to be brought along for the journey.
And a lot of our customers, it's Hadoop, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
which was their big modernization initiative 10 years ago. We helped a lot of customers bridge that transition years ago, and now in some cases we're helping them bridge that transition off of Hadoop onto something more cloud native. So, I mean, yeah, it's a great point that you bring up is this is not a time-bound get to job done initiative. It is modernization just becomes a core principle of your continual business operations. How do we constantly groom our operations, our technology stacks, our integration stacks to allow ourselves to push forward onto whatever the next hill we're looking to climb is?
Yeah, and I think, like I know we're kind of, gosh, 15 minutes goes by so fast. So I know we're like coming up on the end of this. I as we're thinking about the next generation of technology, we're thinking, I mean, it's in your background. We've got AI. We've got AI, like we're staring down the barrel of AI. I wouldn't even say that. I mean, it's happening to us right now. Um, how are you seeing organizations unlocking that data from legacy systems in a scalable way for things like AI or real-time decision-making analytics?
I think the most successful ones are the ones who are really taking a fine look at what their existing data stacks are and how they either enable or prevent them from leveraging data more effectively. The, age-old phrase of garbage in equals garbage out continues to get recycled and dressed up in new, fancier ways. And I think that phrase has just never been truer than it is now. And because of that, organizations really need to make sure their data is up to par for the task at hand. That means they're able to get data at the speed their business requires it. Legacy integration toolkits and stacks may not be up to the task. It may have been fine 10 years ago to feed that data and throw it over onto an FTP site once a week for your BI and your analytics. It's certainly not going to be fine if you're a bank trying to build some sort of fraud detection application. I don't know about you, but if someone finds out that something was fraudulent 10 days later, I'm going to be pretty upset. But
Yeah.
every time I get proactively notified when something's been used without my consent, I get very happy as an end user and client of that organization. Like that increases my loyalty to them, right? So if you look at the way customers are trying to leverage their data more effectively, it really starts at the point of understanding what you have, where it's holding you back, and where it's acting as an accelerant for your new initiatives. And again, the new initiatives, AI is certainly there, but it comes down to, is AI going to help you grow your revenue? Is it going to help you save on your costs? Or is it going to help you manage risks? Right? It
Yeah.
ultimately maps back down. And so the decisions that you make around your data stack as it relates to AI projects, you got to weigh those against those top level goals.
That's that's a great way to end, Ashwin. I think so many good points in this, tying modernization, legacy modernization to an end goal, being very clear about that goal, making sure that, you're considering all things in your tech stack, knowing that it's a moving target and it's always going to be moving, and we have to have goals starting small and scaling up. This has been a great session. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope the audience will join us for our others and to hear from more precisely experts like yourself.
Thanks so much, Ariana. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you.